Okay, we've had a request to talk about time travel. Okay, well, we do travel through time. Everyone does, you know. It was a minute ago, and now it's now, and a minute from now it'll be now. So we are going through time in a linear fashion. But I don't think that's what this particular viewer was asking about. I think they were asking more to do with, can we do like major time travel, going back in time or going way forward in time? Well, you can go back in time using your consciousness to remember various things that happened to you in your life. Now, you're not dragging your physical body back with you, but in your mind's eye, you can definitely time travel back and revisit things that you experienced. But maybe you're thinking, I really want to go back in time and I want to maybe change some things that happened back in time. Or maybe you want to go, I don't know, whatever you want to do backwards in time. Or maybe, you can, sometimes we get deja vus. Everyone knows a deja vu. It's like you just maybe get a vision of something that's going to happen, and then lo and behold, sometime later you experience that thing that you had a premonition about. That would seem to mean that that thing that you had a deja vu about was already in existence before you experienced it. That's a very hard one to wrap your mind around. That something you had, like there was one time when I was working at the nursing home, a couple of times, when in the middle of the night I woke up and I heard a voice saying, so and so is going to pass on. And I went into work, and lo and behold, so and so had passed on. So was that, that's hard to say if it was like something that was going to happen in the future, because it was, I heard it in the middle of the night and I went in the next day and they had passed on. So was it like at the same time that they passed on, that's when I got woken up and I had the voice that said? Pretty much that's how it was. So maybe that wasn't me, not the same thing as a deja vu or a precog. I think it would be called precognition, that something is going to happen. But that's what I think what these precognitions mean, that certain events that we get this feeling about, or a vision about, or a dream about, that come to pass, somehow it's like they already existed, and then we just had to wait through time for that to happen. The old idea of a dream coming true. So, I'm going to tell you, to the best of my trying to figure it all out, I'm going to say time travel is possible. Just today, I was telling somebody that Einstein talked about the spaceman. One spaceman went off in his rocket ship and he went very, very fast, very fast. And he came back and he had aged at a different rate than the people who had remained on Earth during his trip. So we're so used to what I always say is Newtonian physics in our world, or billiard ball physics. It's basically if you're on a pool table and you line up the white ball with the ball you want to hit, and you use your pool cue to give it some force, that's basically very Newtonian physics, which is very old-fashioned physics, but for the most part in our day-to-day life, that's the way physical objects pretty much operate. I say pretty much because not too often, but every once in maybe not more than a blue moon, I see something that is not Newtonian physics. I've seen not people disappear, but people, I'll just look away for a moment, I look back, and either someone's there, it wasn't there before, or someone was there, and a moment later they're not there. So to me, it's happened enough time. I've had so many weird things. So many weird things that are not, that kind of billiard ball physics. They're like, where the hell did that person go? It's like they winked right out of here. So I have to say, is it true? For me, it's true. People can wink in and out of existence. One time, I saw the weirdest thing many years ago. I saw somebody and it looked like only part of them had materialized into my reality. Only part of the body was there. It was like they were half in our reality and half in some other reality, because the full human body wasn't there. And it wasn't somebody I was up close to that I could go and, push them or something. They were, it was at a football stadium, and they were, within visual range, but they weren't right next to me. And it was just, I kept looking back at them and going, something's weird about that person. And I kept looking at them, and it's like only half of their body is in our reality. It was so weird. Another time, I had binoculars and I was looking at the moon at nighttime. And it was so strange because it looked like somebody had taken a bite out of the moon. I mean, the moon didn't have a normal look to the one side of it. It looks like somebody had taken a knife maybe and chopped out a chunk of the moon. It seems impossible, but I saw it. I saw it. I can't explain it. That's about all I can tell you. Now, there are so many stories about yogis and Tibetan monks that can do incredible things, like teleporting. Now, we saw teleporting in TV shows like the old Star Trek, various versions of Star Trek. They use a transporter beam. But that's a technological way to move someone from here to there. But long before Star Trek was around, there were stories about advanced yogis or monks that spent so many years meditating and learning from spiritual masters that they could do these incredible feats. So there's a long history of people being able to do this. So many stories, so many stories. Do I believe them? I believe them. I believe them. Maybe you want to know, well, how can I time travel? Or how can I teleport? Um, well, I don't think if you go to your local airport that, they're going to have a teleport pad where you can use a transporter beam to go from here to San Francisco and back. But if you wanted to give yourself a really good chance of being able to do these kind of things, you're going to have to follow in the path of the yogis and the monks. And you're going to have to spend a lot of time meditating. Because that's how, best as I can put it together, that's how they got these abilities. It was becoming a regular daily meditation person. Do you have to find a spiritual master in order to get these powers? I don't think you need one. There's enough spiritual textbooks that talk about these things and talk about and in the end, I don't think you even need the textbooks. I think it's built into your system, into your consciousness, and to awaken it, you have to learn to meditate. And you don't really have to learn to meditate because it's kind of built in. It's like we're so used to having to go and pay somebody to get a training on how to do these things. And I fell for this so many times. But what I know now is I wasted a hell of a lot of money. But they were experiences. And, if you want somebody to see if they're going to help you or not, there really is no guarantee. You could try going to a meditation center in your town. The problem is when you go to these centers, they're always looking for the new person. They always know that you're new. And what do they want you to do? They want you to join their organization, and then they want to give you a bunch of their teachings. And are these teachings going to help you with learning to do teleportation? Not necessarily, and they might really steer you in the wrong direction. So if you're going to meditate, why don't you do it in your bedroom? Close the door. And I don't even really recommend those meditations on YouTube. I think it's a lot of garbage, a lot of talking and things, guided meditations and binaural beats. You don't need all this stuff. It's a lot of crap. So, if it's mild out, I would suggest open your window for fresh air. And sometimes you'll hear things like birds or wind chimes, thunder. Why would you want these things? Because it's just very interesting. It makes your meditation more interesting. So quiet meditation with the window open, or if it's mild out, really mild out in summertime, maybe go to a nice park, sit down under a nice tree somewhere. There's different kinds of meditations you can do. But, the easiest thing to do is just to simply relax. And most meditation teachers, good ones, will say, focus on your breathing. Pay attention to your breathing. Make sure you are breathing and you're not holding your breath. And then, depending on what you want to do, if you want to watch your thoughts, sometimes that's a very good thing to do, especially at the beginning, because then you'll start seeing how many thoughts you have. And when you just watch them and not acting on it, in other words, just sit there. And even if your thoughts are, I need to get up and I need to call Alice, ignore the thought. Ignore it. I know that this thought wants me to go call out. Never mind. I'm in meditation for the next hour. And I know I've got this strong urge to go call Alice. Or maybe you hear the phone ring in the other room. Don't go. Let the phone ring. Your job is simply to sit there and really study what's going on in your mind. And you have to do it over and over and over again, because we live in a very busy world. And if you only meditate one day and then you remember again 3 months from now, you're not going to get the kind of medication that it's going to take in order to get you to become someone who starts having strange things go on. That's about all I want to tell you. But if you want to wait for a technological means for teleporting, you might have to wait for a very long time. There's stories that this could exist, but they're pretty much stories. And if I was going to rely on any stories, I'm going to rely on the stories about the yogis who did meditate for many long time. A long time ago, I used to listen to a very interesting person on a co-op radio station. And he did a weekly talk, and he was the one that said, every time, every episode, meditation is medication for the mind. Remember that one. Meditation is medication for the mind. You can't go wrong by meditating, but you might end up with weird things happening to you. Teleporting, that's very advanced. If that happens to you, you might freak out. I've had things that are so weird that usually I say, I think I'm losing my lunch. In other words, this is unbelievably bizarre. And so you have to get really good at understanding fear and anxiety, because it's a very common thing that humans have. And, your doctor or psychiatrist might prescribe any number of pills, but pills are not anything more than placebo effect. If you really come to understand fear and anxiety and emotion, which is really something you should do without needing all these pharmaceutical drugs, you're going to have to be able to live with fear, live with anxiety for great long periods of time. It doesn't sound fun, but everyone experiences it anyway from time to time. So if you're already experiencing this, and I don't know anybody that hasn't, you might as well know that this stuff can keep coming up, and it might be accelerated by your meditation. So be prepared. And how do you prepare for it? Maybe just knowing that it might happen, and that this guy said, from time to time I feel like I'm losing my lunch. You might remember that and laugh and say, I'm feeling high anxiety, but maybe I'm just losing my lunch. And this guy, he said plenty of times I felt like I was losing my lunch. So many times, unbelievable. How many times? I don't know, maybe more than 5,000 times. So does it mean every day that I feel like I'm losing my lunch? Can't say for sure every day, but there's been enough days that I've had fear and anxiety that I can say that happens a lot. And so is meditation going to medicate my mind? Yes. Eventually, when you get well practiced in it, if you start feeling weird, whatever the weird things are that are going on with you, if you are good at meditation, you get used to slipping into a meditative state and watching it all. And it could be very heavy energy, unpleasant energy, or itching of your skin, or God knows what you might experience. But if you've been meditating, you know that your mind is full of thoughts and emotions, feelings, and sometimes your mind acts bizarre. You just get more used to it. And the more times these things happen and the more times you meditate, the more you just, if you feel fear, and it still comes from time to time, you say, it's not me. If you don't meditate, you're never going to be able to do that. It'll just be words that you would say, but you're not going to really believe it until you sort of get to the point where you can slip in meditation. You can know that, I'm feeling this fear and I felt it before and I'm going to be fine because, it eventually passes and it might come again tomorrow or in a few hours, but, you know, I still feel like I'm better off than the average person who has never studied their mind by meditating. And it's your mind. Why not study the thing that's part of you?